There were animals in prehistory that didn't just dominate their environment. They made everything else look like background decorations, not regular apex predators, not strong for their time, but creatures built like nature, accidentally turned the settings to maximum and forgot to turn them back down. Some had bite forces that turned bone into paste, some reached sizes that make modern predators look like starter pets, and others moved with a speed that shouldn't be legal in water that thick. Basically, before humans ever existed, Earth already had boss fights wandering around like it was nothing. No evolution grinding, no slow climb up the food chain, just straight up maxed stats from spawn. And because nature loves building its most unfair creatures underwater first, we're starting exactly where all nightmares start: the ocean. If being overpowered had a fossil record, Dunkleosteus would probably be page 1. This thing lived around 360 million years ago in the Devonian period, and calling it a fish feels like calling a tank a metal bike. It didn't bother with teeth. It had 2 solid bone blades instead, like somebody looked at the idea of teeth and said, too delicate, make the whole mouth a weapon. And these jaws didn't just cut. They sheared through armor, bone, and whatever unlucky organism passed in front of them. How strong are we talking? Estimates put its bite force higher than a modern crocodile, and crocodiles already bite hard enough to turn steel bars into suggestions. Dunkleosteus achieved that in water, where movement is literally slowed down by physics. On top of that, it could snap its jaws open and shut in a fraction of a second, meaning prey didn't get chased. It got vacuum sucked into the bone grinder. Efficient? Yes. Fair? Absolutely not. The front of its body was wrapped in thick, armored plates, because apparently nature wasn't satisfied with giving it the offensive stats of a demolition tool. It needed defensive stats too. The rest of its body hasn't been found, but based on skull size and comparisons to relatives, scientists think it probably reached around 20 feet. Though realistically, with fossils from this era being incomplete, it wouldn't be shocking if one day we find evidence it got bigger. Because of course it would. Its ecosystem didn't look balanced. It looked like Dunkleosteus at the top and then everything else hoping not to be next on the menu. Smaller armored fish, free snacks, early sharks, also snacks. Anything squishy probably didn't even register as a meal. The only real threat to Dunkleosteus was other Dunkleosteus. Fossils show bite marks from members of its own species, meaning they occasionally decided the most dangerous thing around was their own reflection and handled it accordingly. Apex predators eating each other is not normal ecosystem behavior. That's peak. Final boss doesn't need minions. What made Dunkleosteus even more ridiculous is that it didn't just bite hard, it bit efficiently. Modern predators waste energy chewing or repositioning prey. Dunkleosteus solved that by evolving a hinge system inside the skull that basically turned its head into a 4-part guillotine. When it opened its jaw, tendons and bony joints snapped everything backwards, powering the lower jaw down like a mechanical trap. The moment it shut its mouth, the same system reversed force and slammed everything together with crushing pressure. There was no "let me tear off a chunk" strategy here. It was more like convert entire organism into manageable pieces immediately. Evolution sometimes takes millions of years to refine hunting techniques. This thing just brute forced it. And if you're imagining this monster slowly cruising around like a lazy armored submarine, think again. The skull shape and muscle attachments suggest bursts of acceleration, not shark-level maneuvering, but fast enough to close distance before anything had time to react. When your kill strategy is blink and you're paced, you don't need stamina. Fossils also show bone remodeling patterns that indicate powerful jaw muscles, not just closing force, but sustained grip strength. In simple terms, once Dunkleosteus clamped down, whatever was underneath wasn't going anywhere except into its stomach in paste form. Even the digestive system played a role. Bone fragments are found in coprolites linked to Dunkleosteus, meaning it actually swallowed bone. That isn't a predator trait. That's a biological garbage disposal. Most apex predators in history earned power by size. Liopleurodon earned it by acceleration. Jurassic oceans were packed with big animals, ichthyosaurs, plesiosaurs, early sharks, but nothing combined muscle, hydrodynamics, and bite mechanics the way this pliosaur did. This wasn't the biggest marine reptile ever, not even close, but it operated like speed was a weapon, and the water was just a medium to move through on the way to breaking something. Its skull alone reached the size of a large man, and the teeth inside were conical and thick, designed to hold and crush, not slice politely like shark blades. When Liopleurodon hit prey, it didn't nibble, it committed. If it closed its jaws on a marine reptile's flank, that was the end of the reptile. There wasn't a second round. The bite was anchored, the twist followed, and bones separated like nature forgot to add durability stats. The real trick wasn't strength, it was burst. Fossil bone attachments suggest muscles capable of explosive power. Imagine a crocodile launching from a riverbank, but scaled up to a multi-ton submarine-shaped reptile doing the same thing in open water. Modern predators sprint in air. Liopleurodon sprinted in liquid, and anything that saw it late simply didn't get a chance to react. Hunting wasn't a fight. It was a collision. Jurassic seas offered enough large prey to fuel that design. Long-necked plesiosaurs, broad-bodied ichthyosaurs, fast-moving fish. It didn't specialize. It consumed opportunity. A predator like this didn't need stealth. The ocean itself hid it. Dark water, low visibility, and one explosive movement. Even if you sensed pressure change or disturbance, the detection came too late. You were already inside its jaws, already in the spin. And unlike filter feeders of later eras, or the coordinated pods of orcas today, Liopleurodon didn't rely on strategy or numbers. It worked alone because nothing else in its zone could challenge it. When a creature evolves into its own category of threat, cooperation becomes pointless. It wasn't top of the food chain. It was the food chain in regions it patrolled. If there was ever a creature that felt like evolution decided sharks needed a premium, subscription-only version, it was Megalodon. Everyone hears giant shark and imagines a scaled-up great white. That's cute, but inaccurate. Great whites are fast, flexible pursuit predators. Megalodon was closer to a moving wall of muscle with teeth built to turn whales into bite-sized cargo. It wasn't simply big. It operated on a completely different economy of force. At around 15-18 meters long and weighing up to 60 metric tons, this animal didn't attack prey. It deleted momentum from whatever it hit. Fossil whales from its era show bite marks where entire ribs snapped like breadsticks. Modern sharks slice and let their prey bleed out. Megalodon didn't need patience. It went straight for structural damage. Spine, rib cage, major organs. One hit, one decision, stop moving forever. The teeth tell the whole story. Broad, heavy, serrated wedges that weren't for grabbing slippery fish. They were for punching through blubber and bone. A modern great white can take a chunk out of a seal. Megalodon could effectively take a chunk out of a whale. Same basic plan as a circular saw, just powered by several tons of muscle and ancient ocean physics. Its jaw muscles, based on preserved bite mechanics, could exert enough force to rival the strongest crushing power on record from any animal, living or extinct. And unlike pliosaurs, which used explosive ambushes, Megalodon dominated open water with range and endurance. It wasn't hiding in murky shallows. It cruised blue water, patrolling coastlines and migration routes like a biological checkpoint. Baleen whales were just starting to appear in numbers during its reign, and they basically became Megalodon's moving energy bars. A predator that size can't bother with small prey. It hunted the ocean's biggest animals because nothing else provided the calories necessary to run that engine. As for rivals, orcas didn't exist yet. Large-toothed whales were around, but still evolving their social hunting and sonar strategies. Megalodon ruled during a brief window where nothing in the ocean could realistically challenge it in a one-on-one scenario. Apex isn't even accurate. It was the ocean's default boss fight for several million years. So why isn't it around now? Climate shift and prey collapse. As oceans cooled, many whale species moved into colder waters where Megalodon couldn't easily follow. Smaller, faster predators adapted better to the new environment, and the energy budget that once made Megalodon unstoppable eventually became a liability. Not because it got weaker, but because the world changed its rules. When your design depends on abundance, extinction doesn't always come from a fight. Sometimes it comes from an empty ocean highway. T-Rex wasn't impressive because it was big. Plenty of dinosaurs were big. What made T-Rex different is that its entire body looked like evolution tried to combine every successful predator strategy into one skeleton and then removed anything unnecessary. Apex predators usually specialize. T-Rex didn't. It stacked advantages. Its skull alone reads like a biology experiment where the goal was maximum structural failure on impact. Hollowed cavities reduced weight, cross-braced support bones absorbed shock, and the jaw joints flexed instead of cracking. Most predators have to manage their bite so they don't break their own skull. T-Rex bit like breaking bone was the point, and its skull simply didn't care. To underline that, many T-Rex teeth had roots longer than the visible tooth itself. The animal didn't just have teeth. It had reinforced anchors designed to hold through splintering force. Those teeth weren't slicing like shark blades either. They were thick, serrated wedges. When T-Rex bit bone, it didn't leave clean cuts. Fossils show bone crushed into fragments and dust. We know it digested bone because we've literally found powdered bone inside its coprolites. That's not a strong bite. That's an industrial shredder attached to a vertebrate. Now, hunting behavior. Pop science framed T-Rex as a scavenger at one point because it had a strong sense of smell. But the idea that a 6 to 9 ton animal with forward-facing eyes, depth perception better than hawks, and a stride length that covered ground like a truck somehow couldn't hunt never made sense. A scavenger doesn't need binocular vision and neck muscles capable of yanking hundreds of kilograms of resisting prey toward its mouth. A scavenger sits and waits. T-Rex searched, detected, tracked, and closed. Its legs weren't built for sprinting like cheetahs. No animal that size sprints. Instead, it used efficient strides and tendon elasticity. Think long long-range bulldozer speed. Herbivores didn't need it to be fast. They needed it to not reach them. Too bad it usually did. And those arms? People love laughing at them. But imagine holding on to thrashing horned dinosaurs with forelimbs strong enough to bench press an NFL lineman. Short arms aren't useless if they're designed for leverage during killing. T-Rex didn't need reach. It needed anchors, and that's exactly what it had. What's easy to forget is how durable T-Rex was. We found healed injuries that would kill most animals. Cracked ribs, crushed bones, infections. It didn't just survive danger, it fought through it and kept going. A creature doesn't end up at the top of a Cretaceous food web by being fragile, and its world wasn't empty. This wasn't some relaxed prehistoric safari. It hunted armored ceratopsians with horns that could pierce trucks, and duck-billed hadrosaurs capable of breaking bones with tail strikes. Yet across its range, T-Rex teeth show up everywhere, embedded in bones of animals that clearly died trying to escape it. When apex predators evolve, they often trade one strength for another, speed for power, stealth for size. T-Rex didn't trade, it stacked. Bone breaker bite, sensory package tuned for pursuit, locomotion built for endurance pressure, and physiology that blurred the line between reptile and bird energy systems. One of the strangest things about T-Rex is how misunderstood its movement still is. People imagine slow, lumbering steps because of old art and movies, but muscle attachment studies and tail biomechanics show a different picture. The tail acted like a giant counterbalance, a living stabilizer bar. Every step returned stored elastic energy through ligaments along the spine, meaning each stride wasn't just strong, it was economical. T-Rex didn't sprint, it cruised with force. Think of a freight train, not fast in a sprint, but the last thing you want catching momentum behind you. Hearing, too, was unfair. CT scans of T-Rex skulls show expanded ear canals tuned to low-frequency sound. That means it could detect footsteps, breathing, and distant movement other predators wouldn't even register. While other dinosaurs relied on sight first, T-Rex hunted with layered sensory systems. If vision didn't get you, smell did. If smell didn't get you, sound did. Silence wasn't safety. Silence was simply the moment before it arrived. Then there's behavior. Fossil trackways and bone beds hint at social structure. Not packs like wolves, but overlapping territories and potential cooperative feeding. That's speculation, sure, but multiple adult and juvenile remains in the same kill areas suggest at minimum opportunistic group interaction. A solo apex is dangerous. A loosely social apex is a nightmare. The first Titanoboa fossils came out of a Colombian coal mine, and the size alone forced paleontologists to rethink the climate it lived in. You don't get a snake this size in a mild environment. That region after the dinosaur extinction wasn't just warm, it was practically greenhouse-grade tropical heat, and reptiles took full advantage. Titanoboa wasn't a stretched python. The vertebrae show thick bone walls and large muscle attachment surfaces, meaning density, not length, was its real advantage. Strength came from mass, and this snake had more of it than anything in its ecosystem. At an estimated 13 meters long and over a ton in weight, it didn't need speed. It needed proximity, and swamps gave it that for free. Most modern snakes rely on shutting off blood flow when constricting. Titanoboa operated in a size class where bone failure probably happened first. A crocodilian or giant fish wouldn't suffocate slowly. Ribs would splinter under the first full contraction. Fossils of massive turtles and early crocodiles from the area line up neatly with its size and hunting method. Hard shells didn't matter when the predator applied pressure like industrial equipment. And it didn't do the dramatic jungle coil thing movies show. Titanoboa spent most of its time in water, where mass becomes neutral and ambush becomes effortless. Sitting still in murky river systems meant the only warning a prey animal got was displacement in the water. And by then, closing distance wasn't a chase. It was one body length and done. One interesting point, its head shape was broader than modern big constrictors, not huge like a crocodile, but wide enough to clamp, adjust, and swallow larger prey efficiently. It didn't need fangs designed for venom or slashing. A firm grip and gravity did most of the mechanical work once the prey couldn't struggle. And because the ecosystem was still rebuilding after the extinction event, competition wasn't stable yet. Titanoboa didn't rise by outsmarting other predators. It rose because nothing else filled the slot first. Giant fish surfaced for oxygen. Early crocodiles basked in shallows. The snake simply existed in the right form at the right time and let heat-boosted metabolism do the rest. It's worth noting that this wasn't a sprint hunter or an endurance chaser. It didn't need either. It was a biological pressure system waiting for anything to cross a bad section of water. Most apex predators force movement. Titanoboa forced stillness. And when the planet slowly cooled and humidity dropped, reptiles like this didn't shrink by choice. The environment just stopped paying the metabolic cost. Most fossils come from coastal floodplains of what is now North America, and that geography mattered. These were slow, silty waters, not open rivers. Visibility was poor, sound carried strangely, and anything entering the water immediately lost its advantage. The best defense for large herbivores was staying alert, and Deinosuchus specialized in reducing alert to too late by simply waiting long enough. An animal this size doesn't need stealth, it only needs stillness. The armor plating along its back wasn't just defense. The osteoderms were mineral storage, reservoirs of calcium and phosphate. Crocodilians still use this today. In periods when feeding slowed, they could rely on reserves locked in bone plates. It's a biological safety net, and Deinosuchus held a larger one than anything else in its environment. That means long fasting periods didn't threaten it. A dry season or migration gap that would starve other predators just made this one quieter. Teeth also changed through life. Younger individuals had sharper teeth, probably catching fish and smaller animals. Adults developed thickened, crushing teeth, a sign of dietary shift. Growing didn't just make it bigger, it revised its hunting strategy. Smaller carnivores scale up body mass, not tactics. Deinosuchus scaled up ecological role. It grew into something capable of removing limbs, shells, and ribs like they were part of a routine process instead of a struggle. And judging from bite marks and population spread, it wasn't rare either. There may have been entire stretches of coastline where stepping into the wrong inlet meant disappearing without much noise. Predator success isn't measured just by skull size, it's measured by presence, and fossil distribution suggests Deinosuchus wasn't a one-off monster. It was a system, a repeating pattern of ambush points across thousands of kilometers. The irony is that it lived at the same time as giant marine predators offshore, giant theropods inland, and armored dinosaurs everywhere. Yet one of the most dangerous animals was the one you might mistake for a log. There's nothing theatrical about that. No sprint, no dramatic chase, no display, just patience, pressure, and timing. In ecosystems full of spectacle, Deinosuchus used absence of motion as strategy. Even today, modern crocodilians echo that mindset. A saltwater croc acts like a scaled-down version of the same design. Wait, lunge, drag, silence. But what we see now is a leftover blueprint, a fraction of the size and force that existed when rivers were warm enough and prey was large enough to justify that biology.